This Weber repair video is all about replacing the Cookbox and related parts on the Summit family of grills. The Summit series offers more features than other grills, and this means Cookbox replacement is more involved. You'll learn everything you need to know right here. Start by removing the cotter pins and hinge pins from each side of the Cookbox, then lift the lid and set it aside. Use a shop vac to remove loose debris from inside the grill. You'll stay cleaner as you work later, and so will the grill owner's premises. Remove all the loose items from inside the Cookbox. This would be the smoker box, the grates, and the flavorizer bars. With everything removed down to the burner tubes, it's probably a good time to get the shop vac out again and remove the remaining debris. Remove the control knobs by pulling them straight off the front of the control panel. Don't worry about pulling hard. Sometimes these take a fair tug to get them off. There are only 2 screws that secure the control panel, one at each end. Remove both screws now, lift the control panel off its resting spot, move it forward, and then set it down on the top edge of the partially opened doors. You won't be able to take the control panel completely away yet because it's still attached to the rest of the grill with some wires. One set of these wires extends down to the battery pack inside the grill. Pull the wires off. You'll notice that the spade connectors are different widths, so it's easy to replace the wires properly later. The other wire leads down to the tank scale sensor on the right-hand side of the grill. Unclip it from the tank scale, then get ready to fish the wire out so you can lift the whole control panel off and away from the grill. If the grill you're working on has a side burner, unclip the quick release fitting and move the gas line to one side. You'll have to remove the side tables as part of the Cookbox replacement, and this is easy. Both are held by 2 bolts and 2 brackets. Undo these now, and you don't have to worry about the side tables falling off because they're supported at the top as well. With the bolts removed, simply lift the side tables off and set them aside someplace safe for now. With the main gas supply shut off, use a 7/8" open-end wrench to loosen and remove the main gas line from the manifold. There are other things that fasten to the manifold on the Summit models too, but in order to get to them, you're going to have to remove the manifold mounting bolts, then pull the manifold forward a little bit first. The next thing to remove from the manifold is the gas line that supplies the infrared burner at the back of the Cookbox. Use an open-end wrench to loosen and remove this line now. Remove the infrared burner igniter wire and the fitting that attaches the thermocouple to the manifold. You're now free to lift the manifold away from the grill and set it aside someplace safe. The entire infrared burner assembly has a cover over the back that's held with 2 screws, the heads of which are inside the Cookbox. Remove these now and lift the cover assembly off. Before you go any further, remove the 3 clips that secure the gas line, thermocouple, and igniter wire to the side of the Cookbox. Then remove the protective plastic shroud that also goes around these parts. Now's the time to remove the infrared burner box. Loosen and remove the 2 nuts that secure this part, then pull it out along with the thermocouple from inside the Cookbox. The procedure is similar for removing the infrared burner itself. Loosen and remove the 2 nuts securing this part, loosen and remove the gas line, then pull the infrared burner out away from the grill from inside the Cookbox. Now it's time to move back around to the front of the grill and remove the heat shields from the place where the manifold used to be. Both heat shields are held with just 2 bolts, one at each end. Remove the bolts now and remove the top heat shield. The back one remains in place until the burner tubes come out. Pull the burner tubes out one at a time by unclipping them from their support at the back and pulling them forward. It might take a little wiggling to get them out, but this is the way to do it. The Cookbox is secured with only 2 bolts, one at each end. After you've taken these out, remove the igniter wire, then lift the Cookbox off and set it to one side. If you'll be changing the gas line going to the infrared burner, lift the old one off and set the new one in place, ready for the next step. The new Cookbox has clips on the side just like the old one did. Loosen the screws that secure these clips and let them hang down in preparation for lifting the new Cookbox in place. One of the reasons you'll want to get help with this operation is because you have to hold the gas line in the channel in the side of the Cookbox as it's being lowered down into the frame. The gas line has to exist within the channel on the Cookbox when the Cookbox is in place. The new Cookbox will come with new nuts and bolts, and you want to be sure to use these. There's a really good chance that corrosion has set in on the old fasteners. Tighten up the bolts with the plastic washers under their heads, then get ready to start adding things back on to the new Cookbox. Depending on the condition of the grill you're working on, you may or may not have all the new parts you're going to see us installing here now. Always be sure to install genuine Weber parts when you're working on these grills. In this case, this is a replacement infrared burner unit. This replacement burner didn't come with a new orifice, but it's easy to add one. Be sure you orient the orifice so the end that takes the flare fitting is facing outwards. Install the burner from inside the Cookbox, then use a nut and bolt, one at each end, to secure the burner to the box itself. That other smaller part that fits in next to the infrared burner is called the infrared burner box. And if you're replacing the one on the grill you're working on, you're going to need to do a little bit of assembly to get the thing ready. The easiest way to get this right is by placing the old box next to the new one and copying the arrangement and orientation of the new parts. Start by inserting the new electrode, like you see here, then slip the brass nut over top and around the bend before doing it up finger tight. Verify that the electrode looks like this before snugging up the nut gently with a wrench. It's a good idea to replace the thermocouple while you're at it, so take it out of the package and start to fit it in to the infrared burner box. Remove the outer nut from the thermocouple and then thread the remaining nut up higher onto the body. You'll need to impart a gentle 90-degree bend into the thermocouple so it can go into the box. Slip it into the hole next to the electrode, then secure it with the small brass nut, snugged gently with a wrench. Replacing the infrared burner box assembly is just the opposite of taking it out in the first place. Slip the threaded studs into the mounting holes, then thread on the two nuts with built-in lock washers before snugging them with a wrench. Add the new electrode wire, then feed it around the side of the grill towards the front where it will connect to the manifold later. Do the same sort of thing with the thermocouple, but be careful it can't be allowed to get any sharp bends in it. Now's the time to connect the gas line to the infrared burner, but if you're working with a new gas line, be careful to gently pre-bend it so that it lines up with the fitting properly. It's important that the gas line not get kinked. For now, leave the cover off the infrared burner because you're going to have to go back later to do leak testing. Right now, replace the two heat shields on the front of the Cookbox secured with two bolts, one at each end. These bolts are designed to cut their own threads into the aluminum casting of the Cookbox, and since the box you're working on is new, it won't have threads cut into it. So if you're having trouble getting these screws to bite into the Cookbox, temporarily remove the heat shields, and then with more room, you'll be able to apply more pressure to the screws, helping them to cut the threads they need. Replace the heat shields, and you'll find that those anchoring screws go in much more easily. At this stage, it's time for the burners to go back in the Cookbox, and if you're replacing them, you'll want to make sure you have the right kind on hand. There are 3 different burners that fit into the Summit we're working on here. The smoker burner has round holes, and it sits under the smoker box at the far right of the grill. The other 2 kinds of burners have rectangular holes. Start by putting in the smoker burner locked in place at the back like you see here. Continue working from right to left until you get to the sear burner in the middle of the Cookbox. This one needs to be installed from the inside out due to the built-in heat shield. You're almost ready to replace the manifold now, but first you'll have to install the thread clips, one on each side of the box, so that the mounting bolts for the manifold can thread into something. Now's a good time to remove any debris on the igniters, and a soft bristled hand broom does a good job. Before you put the manifold back into final position, you're going to have to reconnect 3 things to it. One of them is the thermocouple that you see here. Do it up finger tight, then snug it later with an 8mm wrench. That's just about the only size that's going to work on this. Continue by reconnecting the gas line going to the infrared burner. As you work with the wrenches, be careful not to over-tighten the fittings. They're small, especially the thermocouple fitting. They only need to be tightened, snug, and then a little bit more. Pull the white insulating tube off the manifold, slip it over the igniter wire, then push the spade connector in place tight. Push the manifold in place so the gas orifices interlock fully with the holes in the burners. Then anchor the manifold with 2 bolts, one at each end. Before reconnecting the gas line to the manifold, wipe the end of the fitting clean with your finger, then do the fitting up finger tight before snugging it with a 7/8 inch wrench. Tighten the 3 clips that hold the gas line, thermocouple, and igniter wire to the left side of the cookbox. Then set the left side table in place over them. Secure the table with the bolts and brackets and repeat the process for the right side table. Reconnect the gas line to the side burner with the quick release fitting. Reconnect the gas supply to the grill and turn it on, then leak test the fittings with a soap and water solution. Rinse the area with clear water, then wipe dry when you're finished. Next in line for testing is the quick release fitting going to the side burner and the main gas fitting supplying the manifold. Testing the fittings at both ends of the gas line supplying the infrared burner comes next, but it's a bit of a special case. To get gas pressure into the line, you're going to have to turn the control knob on and keep it pushed in while you're spraying and observing the soap and water solution. Even though the control panel is not back in place yet, temporarily install the knobs so you can check the operation of all the burners in the cookbox. You must do this operation either outside or in a very well ventilated space. While you're at it, make sure the side burner works as well as the infrared burner. Understand that you need to keep the infrared burner control knob pushed in for about 4 or 5 seconds after the burner has ignited. This allows the thermocouple enough time to heat up so that it can maintain gas flow on its own without the knob being pushed in. With the leak tests done and the burner operation verified, pull off the knobs again in preparation for installing the control panel. Set it down on top of the partially opened doors, then feed the wires at both ends down into the grill. The wires on the left go behind the rail supporting the slide-out grease tray, and they connect to the battery housing. There are 3 sizes of spade connectors involved, small, medium, and large, and these correspond to connections on the battery housing. You can't get these connections wrong. The wire on the right is for the tank scale sensor, and it goes behind the corresponding rail on the right-hand side. Clip the sensor to the scale, then snap the wire into the holder. Set the control panel in place, but don't fasten it with the screws just yet. First, test the operation of the knob lighting. If it doesn't work, chances are that the batteries are either missing or dead. Install a new set of D cells, negative terminal up, and try the lights again. The LED tank scale readout should also work. Install the 2 screws that secure the control panel, then install the infrared cover on the back of the cookbox. If the cover you're working with is new, you'll have to install the stainless steel trim along one side and the thread clips, one at each end. Set the cover in place over the infrared burner and make sure that the lines leaving the bottom are free and exit together on the right-hand side. Secure the cover with 2 small machine screws, one at each end, then install the protective plastic shroud around the 3 lines. Reinstall the flavorizer bars, the cooking grates, and the smoker box, then put the knobs back into position. Double check the operation of the knob lighting, then replace the lid, the hinge pins, and the cotter pins. You're almost done. Use non-abrasive wipes to leave the grill looking better than when you arrived. You'll go a long way to getting repeat business this way. Thank you very much for taking the time to learn to repair the Summit series of grills like a pro. You're a valuable part of the Weber team.